All right, afternoon. This is kind of a Friday afternoon lull, isn't it? So, has anyone here heard of Cozmo? I know one person has, but yeah, a couple. All right, that's cool. But yeah, more of that later. So, the whole idea of this is, I kind of got a hold of this guy, and I'll tell you the story. And it's just such a charming little fella. So I thought I'd share. And it's kind of, I don't expect the great technical revolution here, okay? That's kind of the disclaimer of it. There'll be some Python code, but it'll mainly be about just having a bit of fun with this guy, okay? It's pretty good. So hopefully you'll end up making friends with Cozmo. That's the whole idea. Now, first of all, did you enjoy the party last night? Yeah? Was that a good idea with the failure stuff?
That was really good.
Yeah?
Create some conversations
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, because I guess my idea with it, well, when I talked to Jakob and Charlotte, was to kind of get all these speakers that you only see do these really heavy technical talks and just kind of throw them off left center and make them swear a bit and stuff like that. Kind of make them a bit more human, right? And I thought it worked really well, so I was pretty happy with it. So I was just making sure that you guys were happy as well. All right, cool. Now, throughout this talk, if you do want to ask questions, please do. It's pretty casual. I like having questions during the talk because that kind of creates a bit of interaction. You might actually learn better, remember it, and then eventually that's my method of getting you to put a green card in the box. No. Now, before we get to this guy, I just want to kind of backtrack because, do you know this? Does anyone know this robot? No, okay, it's just a cool picture. Oh, yeah, Tim knows about it. Now, we didn't just arrive at having robots in our house, right? There's a bit of history to it. This one in particular kind of takes my fancy. I'm kind of jumping a little bit around the timeline. But the Radican robot is actually from Japan. But for some reason, they wrote it in English anyway. It was the world's first, remote-controlled toy, or second remote-controlled toy, at least the first remote-controlled robot. It's about that high, and it could sort of go forwards, backwards, and turn. That was it, right? But it was 1957, and it was made from steel, like this bloody heavy thing. Really quite revolutionary, but I like the box, okay? And I think that anyway. Who has a robot in their house now? Hey, okay, what kind of robots are they? Arduino, okay. What does it do?
Just self-roams around the house.
So that's its purpose?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, so I was wondering if it was like nuclear detonator or something. Yeah? Yours is, okay.
It actually looks up to nuclear stuff.
Get out. Anyone else just want to, yeah?
Cozmo.
You got Cozmo. Yeah. Excellent. Have you done any programming with them? Yeah. Okay, so you know what I'm going to talk about. Okay, yeah, we didn't just arrive at this, right? We didn't just end up, oh, hey, robot in the house. It actually started way, way before that. Anyone know what this is?
Virtual emotional sheet?
Not quite. That's a pretty good guess, though. This is actually, I have to read this because I don't remember. It's a water-powered astronomical clock tower from China. And it was actually built in the year 1088. It's like almost 1,000 years ago. That was one of the first examples of an automaton, not quite a robot, but something automated, but with water, which I find very fascinating because obviously there was no electricity and there was no fuel or petrol engines. But this had like chain drives, and it would show times and little diagrams based on the astronomical seasons, and it's very, very advanced. And it was made by a Chinese inventor called Su Tong, which is probably pronounced incorrectly, but there you go. Another really cool example is this Indian guy. Well, he's not actually Indian. We're not quite sure where he's from because there's no history of his early sort of life, but his name was Al-Jazari. Some say he's Persian, some say he's Pakistani, some say, there's a few different ideas around it. But he also used water, but he actually made kitchen utensils. In 1136, he made things that you use in the kitchen, water-powered as well, to help automate everyday chores, like 800-900 years ago. He also did this thing here, which is, again, automatons that are in water and singing and playing music. Not quite sure how that works, but very fascinating. So we have quite the history of robotics, or automatons at least. All right, that brings us to this, about 400 years later. Anyone ever seen this diagram? it was discovered in the 1950s and is like almost 100% sure that it is Leonardo da Vinci's first humanoid automaton or robotic kind of invention. And that was a diagram they found. And it turned out like there's a bunch of pulleys and stuff that's diagrammed, and there's some arms and legs, and they kind of put it all together from this notebook that they found and made that, right? So it was like an armor or suit of armor that could move. So that's probably where they got Scooby-Doo from, eh? Quite advanced again for 1495, I think it was. It was made for one of the Italian royals. It was trying to impress him at some party, you know, a bit of entertainment, automated. It was all done with pulleys, so someone was pulling all the levers. But he could walk and raise his arms and turn his head and everything. It's quite advanced again. And then that brings us kind of a little bit closer to here. Does anyone know that movie? Silly question. I actually didn't see it until I was an adult, because in Denmark, where I'm from, that is not a thing. Right, no one watches that. So, The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man, it was written in like 1890 or something like that, and was kind of the first real example of someone trying to create what we consider a robot. It wasn't called a robot, it was called a Tin Man, but the idea was kind of the same, even though he has got a funnel on his head. I don't know. And a bit of trivia. Did you know that The Wizard of Oz had 5 different directors and 14 writers? I found that amazing, and it was one of the most successful movies ever made. But they had the Tin Man. So in the 30s or thereabouts, when the movie came out. And the first use of the word robot, as you can see there, was in 1921. This is a Czech play, so the Czech Republic. And it was from the word robota, which means servitude in Czech. That's where the word robot came from. So it is to serve, which is obviously what these dudes are, right? They're some sort of robots. They're servants, automated servants. So it's pretty obvious that robots have been around for a long time before what we consider robots, which is with computers and electricity and, you know, automation in that regard. And then this was popularized in 2003 or whatever it was when the iRobot movie came out. But in 1942, the science fiction author Isaac Asimov came up with the 3 laws of robotics. Has anyone heard of those? Because they're pretty, like, it's part of popular culture now, right? But it wasn't at the time. And people thought he was a bit mental because it was really science fiction. Like, no one's ever going to use that. Right, and then, yeah, well, what happened? So this is kind of, they've been revised a few times. He's added a 0th law and a 4th law, but these are kind of the 3 that are sort of printed in people's memory, right? These are the 3 laws of robotics. Not that we're going to go much into it, but it's nice to know that there are people that are thinking about, especially the ethical aspects of these things, right? So that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, you can read them if you want, but they kind of make sense, right? Basically, we don't want robots to roam free and kill everybody. I think that's where it was coming from. And that kind of brings us today, right? So there's Pepper. Robots today comes in like a lot of shapes and sizes. So you're saying you had an Arduino just roaming around the house. We also have these guys, right? We got Roombas, and we got the automated lawnmower, which I'd love to have in tractor size, because we've got 50 acres of land, and I don't know what to do with it. But the Roombas is like the first thing that we saw that was really automated and really made sense, right? Because who likes vacuuming? Exactly, right? No one. So that made sense, having that to kind of do the menial chores for it. Just don't feed it socks, okay? Doesn't like socks. And the robot on the other side as well. That's my really quick recap of robotics history. Anyone want to add anything? Have I missed out a prudent part that you think? No? Thanks, Norway. So the reason I kind of got into this guy is because of that guy. So this is Jordan, and Jordan's 11. Jordan is on the autism spectrum, which you would never know if you met him. Goes to regular school, all that sort of jazz. But it does mean that he either has no attention span for some things, or he gets deeply engrossed in other things. And it's quite tricky finding the things that he does like. And then when you do find the things he likes, you can't get him off him, right? So it's kind of a, evil circle almost. But he's into computers, big time. More the IT pro side. Like from he was 5 years old, he was setting up VMs. He would find VMware and then install Windows 2000 on it, and then he would put a VMware on that Windows 2000 and install something else in it, just because he could. Right, and there's also the reason that he will never ever touch my computer. Because he goes, you don't want it like that, and he changes all the settings, right? But he's brilliant at it. It's something he's really good at, and he would spend from here till eternity configuring something until it worked. Right, he has that tenacity when it's something he really, really likes. And I kind of thought, okay, what do I need something to kind of engage him. I'll try programming. No, he's not a programmer. Mathematics is not a big thing. He doesn't enjoy programming because it's slow, as in, I can't write two things and press a button and everything goes, right? There's not that immediate reward, as there is when you install Windows 2000. You see, you install it, there's a progress bar, bang, there it is, it works, right? So I saw this talk last year in November. It was a lightning talk, actually by Tim that sits right over there. And I'm just going to point you out, Tim. I know you don't like that. On Cozmo. And I'm like, hang on, there's something here. Because it's like a computer, right? It does stuff, but there's also programming to it. So I got him one for Christmas, Jordan, from Amazon, because Anki, unfortunately, does not accept Australian credit cards for whatever reason. And we started playing with it. And he started taking an interest in Python, and he started doing the games that are on, that comes with a mobile app that I'll show you in a minute. And it just made him engaged on a whole different level than with the computers. And I thought, there we go. Like, we've kind of found something. The problem is that my 3-year-old also thinks it's really, really interesting, but more sort of picking it up and running off with it. So we do know we have another challenge. But I finally found something that was engaging him in a way that wasn't just sitting in front of a screen, right? There was actually some interaction. There was some programming, essentially. He needs my help with it, but that's okay. So that's where I ended up with Cozmo. It was an engagement exercise for a your autistic child. All right, enough about all that. Let's, do you want to meet Cozmo? Yep. Yeah? Yeah. All right. I'm going to try that one again. That was terrible. Can we try that again? Is that me or you? Whoa! Okay, hang on, guys. I kind of ruined the moment, but let's go do that. Okay? And then we do that again. Yeah, something. We'll try again.
Once in a lifetime, an innovation comes along that changes the course of mankind. A modern marvel of science and engineering. Allow me to introduce Cozmo. Cozmo? Cozmo! Oh boy. Yes, Cozmo. You can play later.
And that tagline, big brain, bigger personality, is so true. And you'll see. It is fantastic. But that's Cozmo, right? He's a product from the US, from California, made by a company called Anki. I think it was a Kickstarter or something like it. I'm actually not sure. There's a nodding. And it's just an attempt to create something that's, how do we say it? That has personality and interaction without taking all the fun out of it, right? There's no massive setup and everything. Just before we get to see him, there's some interesting tech specs on it, now that we are geeks here. It has this little LCD on the front. You'll see him close in a minute. They call it an emotional display, because it kind of is. That's his eyes. And they convey a lot of emotion. They've really done a great job of getting his eyes right, inquisitive or angry or bored or sleeping or whatever it might be. Has facial recognition. So it has a little camera on the front that actually recognizes your face. So he knows who you are, and he'll seek you out. So the person that plays the most with him, he'll go to that person and say, hey, and the app will tell you what he wants. You can set him up with about 10 different people that he can recognize. And it all comes through this pretty rudimentary VGA camera, but good enough, right? 30 frames per second, not bad. It's got 4 motors, so he can roll around with these belts here, and he can lift his little forklift type thing, and he'll play with the cubes, as I'll get to that in a minute. And then he has I like this. CPU evaluates reactions, as in that's the only reason there's a CPU in it, is that he evaluates what you're doing, right, and how you react to what he's doing, which is kind of cool. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but that's the way that they sell it. All of this means that he is really cheeky, right? This guy has personality, and if you don't play with him, he'll roam around on his own, and he'll find things, and I don't know if he'll actually recognize a dog, but I like the idea, right? Or he'll get mad if he loses a game. He'll throw a hissy fit and get annoyed with you and turn his back to you, and he'll walk. I had him in my hotel room, obviously, because I was playing with him to try and do all this stuff, and suddenly he sneezes. You go, what the? He's just going around the floor. So he does come with all these emotions that we recognize, and that's actually another thing. Now that I think of it with Jordan as well, because being on the spectrum, he doesn't recognize emotions the way that we do. He learns emotions by people showing him, and this little guy, he's kind of getting it. He understands what he's doing, right? And he's just hilarious to look at. He becomes a happy little man. All right, enough of talk here, okay? Let's have a look at what he actually does. Now, we'll see if I can get this to work here. So, I've got a webcam here so that you can see it. There we go. So there's Cozmo. Hopefully you can see that all right. Now, I also have my Android device here, which I can kind of overlay-ish. I mean, it's just so you get an idea of what that looks like. Oops, and now I turned the phone off. That went well. You do need a device that is not a Windows phone. So I actually went out and bought an Android device just for this. So now it says turn Cozmo on, right? Because he is asleep. So I just got to lift him up and put him back on the cradle, and then he turns on. So that's the charger as well that sits there. And then just.
So he does work with iOS?
He does. Yep. There's an iOS app as well. So now we just got to wait for him to connect to Cozmo. So he's going to wake up. Now he might not be as loud as we would have him. He does have lots of sounds, right? So I'll try and be a bit quiet as well. There you go. All right. So now Cozmo's on. I might just go and turn him up a bit if I can. There you go. Okay. So this is the app that comes with it, right? So right now he's just looking at things. He's just going around. These cubes are remotely activated, so he can see them and he can interact with them, right? So he's seen that cube because that lit up. And he'll use the cubes for games, throw, build, whatever he might do. And you can then do different things with them. So, for example, we can tell him to pick up a cube. Okay, so then he's all happy, right? And throws it. And I'm not doing any of that, right? He's just kind of doing his own thing. But I would just ask him to pick up a cube. So he's finding a cube, he's just kind of lining up. There you go. And he just keeps going, right? Oh, he didn't want that one. Okay. He does have edge detection as well. So ideally, he doesn't fall off the edge. It does happen though, robotics, but he shouldn't fall off the edge. So now I should go for that cube now. We'll see. There he goes. Hey! And then, yeah, put it down, boy. Come on. There we go. Thank you. And so you can do different actions like that, right? So that's kind of the app part of the thing. Oh, that's actually not updating. Why is that not updating? Okay. So is that not responding? Okay. For some reason, this is just frozen a bit. It's not actually updating. Give me a sec. So I still haven't asked him to do that. He's just doing that on his own, right? Okay. Where do you go? There we go. So there's gamification in it, so the app will ask you to play with him. So I've already done this for today. You get points that unlocks more features, and that keeps you going. That's the idea. That's the kind of the way that they let you explore what he does. He'll get, you can see down here, oh, you can't see that, hang on. It actually tells you what he's doing on the bottom here. So now Cozmo's creating a stack of cubes, because I'm not doing anything with him, so he's bored, so he comes up with something. Like he's just going to make up his own mind, right? So while he's doing that, I can show you something else. they've got this new thing. So I got in contact with Anki, and there's an interesting thing I can tell you in a little bit later that might make your life easier. But they've got this new thing called, let's see if I can find it. Where is it? Hang on. No. Oh, here. CodeLab. That thing there, right? So these are the Cozmo apps. So the CodeLab is anyone familiar with, what's it called? You know, the kids' programming languages? Scratch or, what's the one on the end? Sorry? Block? Blockly, yeah. There's many. They all have kind of the same idea. Okay, and this keeps not doing it. Come on, update. There we go. Ugh. Okay, so now I've got control of Cozmo. And it comes with these sort of building blocks, right? This is a really good way for kids to start getting the idea of logic constructs. And you've seen it with Scratch when you do it on the computer and on the screen. And this is very similar. I've been told by Anki that this is just the first version. In about 2 months, they said fall in the US, so about 2 months I'm guessing, this is going to be extended dramatically to do a ton of stuff that will just expand the way that, like you can get them to do all the blocks and everything. But essentially this, you can, we'll do something here, we'll do actions. You can add something, you just drag it up there. Yep. You know, so on, and then you can click drive. On the flag, play, and then he'll do whatever it is that I asked him to do, right? So now he turns around, whoops, sorry. So this is just completely me controlling him now, right? I've taken over his brain. He's my slave. So that's a really good way of getting kids involved. Really, really good way. And that's even my 3-year-old kind of gets what that is, right? He doesn't quite get that it's a sequence of things, but he knows that if he moves those around, Cozmo does stuff. It's quite a good idea. And obviously Scratch works for lots and lots of kids, so why not? And it's right in the app. And I've only plugged this in, by the way, because I want you to show it on the screen, right? It's completely wireless. You can just sit, you know, next to the floor, on the floor next to him if you want to. So that's CodeLab. Any questions on that? Okay, cool. Alrighty. So, yes, quit. And that doesn't update. So now he's back to doing his own shenanigans. All right, so that's kind of the app part of it, right? Now, there's something that's much more interesting for us developers, and I'll just give you a quick peek here. There's a Cozmo that looks amazing. There's a Cozmo SDK, right? So I'll just do a quick slide on that while Cozmo's doing his thing. Because this is probably more, okay, there we go. This is probably more what we want to know about, right? This is all very cute and it's on an app and it's like, yeah, we had a developer conference, right? You know, but that's the introduction to it. And as I said, it's a nice Friday afternoon talk. So the Cozmo SDK comes with a ton of APIs. And you can pretty much control everything that he does, and more, even more than what you see now. So you got the vision systems, you can do face tracking, you can do animations on his screen. You can actually put your own pictures on his face that comes up and shows giraffes or handbags or whatever it might be that you think is good. But it also got all of the actions for moving him, for lifting his forklift thing, grab, whatever it's called. And it has access, you know, low-level access to robot sensors, cubes, everything, even object recognition, like to quite a rudimentary extent. But he can recognize objects in sort of a mathematical way, I guess.
What sort of pet detection?
Pet detection?
Yeah.
Well, he knows dog tails, obviously. So there is a pet detection part of it. I haven't played with it because I've only got a 45-kilo German Shepherd. No, it doesn't work. But there is a pet detection API that does something. I'm not sure what it does, to be honest. Do you know, Tim? Have you tried it?
Simply the same as the facial recognition that, you know, it's looking at the hair, so
So it just recognizes hair as, okay. So teddy bear would do the same thing kind of thing? Yeah, okay. But yeah, it does that, right? It's cute, but you can do lots of stuff with it. And I've got plenty of scripts that I'll show you, so let's do that. All right, so now we'll get to that in a minute. That's me, hello. So it's all just Python scripts, right? All of it's Python. Now, I have to, by the way, I have to enable the SDK, which is, very hard because you click that button here, and that's it. Now he's programmable. You see, he's stopped. That kind of kills him, right? That's all that screen really going to show. Maybe a few logging messages, so I'm just going to hide it. Not going to actually look at it. Now these are all Python scripts. There is a C# wrapper now. I have not tried it, but there is some wrapping around. But from what you were saying, Tim, it's quite basic still. They haven't taken advantage of async await and all those things that you get in C#. It's all just kind of broken a bit. They've just taken the Python code and directly ported it. But this is the simplest of programs, right? And I'll show you all the Anki examples, hence the nice commenting, because you can just go and grab them, right? Just go and download it and play with them. So I'd rather use those than try and be clever and come up with my own. So this is all you do, import Cozmo. There's really a simple way of setting all these up and download the right packages into Python. I won't bore you with all that. There's a nice tutorial on that. But once you've got the Cozmo library, there's a robot definition, and there's lots and lots of different things that the robot can do. Like if you just bring up IntelliSense here, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can get him to do, right? Events and methods and actions and everything. The cool thing is that because you got the tutorial and the setup and the phone is connected with the USB, it's as simple as just going, just run the script in Python. That's all you have to do, right? And then if we're quiet, we might be able to hear him talk. Connect. Hello world. That's Cozmo's voice. And it's as simple as that, right? So there's an Android connection. There will be a similar one for iOS that it just knows, and it's set up in your path, and it's set up as a device driver to find the Android device, and it's that easy. Which is why once you, as the parent, has set it up, it's so approachable for kids as well, because it's just the code you look at. There's none of the orchestration, which is probably why they chose Python, right? So I find that quite approachable and quite nice. And of course, we can start doing other things. So we can now start here saying, hey, drive straight or turn in place, and you give it some degrees or you give it a distance, right? And this will just be him driving in a square. I'll just move these a little bit out of the way. And if you run that, you can kind of almost get, well, it says what it does, right? It's in the comments. But even if you just read it, you can say that, 4 times it does this, drive straight, turn, drive. It just goes in a square. So I know that's very exciting. And now, because no one reminded me that you actually couldn't see the screen, how about we just look at the webcam again as well, right? So let's just make it a little bit smaller. Come on. There we go. Okay. Can you still kind of see that? That's all right? Just so we got them both on the screen here. So we'll run that drive square thing, the script. So he goes forwards, and then he turns, and he talks as well, of course. Let's see if he actually falls off the edge now. Edge detection works most of the time. And then he waits, and then he keeps going, right? So there's no smarts around it when you are running the SDK. He's just going to keep going. This is why he would probably fall off the table if you went far enough. So you just got to make sure that your programming is right. And you get all the logging as well. It tells you tons of stuff about what he's doing. Yeah? Yeah. He'll notice if there's a wall, he'll stop. You can actually detect that as well. There's an API for that. If there's like an immovable object.
What about noise around?
Don't know. Anyone? Tim, do you know? I actually don't know. Can you detect noise?
No, he doesn't have a speaker.
No, there's no microphone as such. Yeah. That's a good question, though. Never thought.
How well would he work on the carpet?
Oh, it works perfectly. Yeah. The only reason I've got him there is so you can see him. Yeah. I always use him on the floor, except when the dog's around, because he's a big dog. But no, he works perfectly on the carpet. Like these belts here have amazing traction. So he works on the smooth surface as well as the carpet. All right. We go back to No, that's actually not what I wanted, but that's okay. We'll start a Visual Studio, why not? He's got a voice, right? We can make him sing. Oh, okay. So you give him, like you can give him a pitch and scales, and he'll lift his. You can see move his lift, and he moves his head, and so he's singing and dancing, right? And then you've got the notes here, so you can say that you give him then the pitch, so you can control the pitch of his voice as well. And he's got another. He changes the pitch obviously as he goes through the do I mi fa sol. Yeah, that's my singing. Okay, I'll just kill that one. So let's try that one. Pi. Okay, let's see if we can hear him again. Ah, they're too short, right? The voice snippets. But you get the idea. So the pitch changed. It's really hard to hear though in a room like this, but the pitch changed as he went up. So you got control of the voice. He's got some lights on the back, kind of up here, that changes color as well. And you can control those as well. So I'll just run it first. So, oops. Kind of hard to see, but maybe if I do this. Yeah. So now I can control the backlight here. So it changes color, which is not a great, you get the idea. Red, green, blue, white, or yellow, and off.
So Cozmo could be your build lights?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I have actually seen that. Some nerd has done that. So you get Cozmo running around in the office or something, and because you can just have an Android device running all the time that's connected to him. He could do whatever you want with the lights. Yeah, they're usually used to tell emotion or state of something, but that could be a build light as well. Yeah, just because we like build lights. That's a good idea. And the way you change the backlights, surprise, surprise. He's got, a backpack light, and you just be sleeping between it. It is that simple, right? That's I really like this API. They've done an amazing job of making the abstraction really legible and really approachable, because there's so much going on with we'll do face detection in a minute, that you just kind of, as a developer, you sense that they've tried to make it as simple as possible. Maybe so that kids could do it, but certainly also so a novice Python programmer like me can just kind of jump in and do it, right? There's no mathematics involved unless you want to do something like object recognition. Now the cubes, of course, we can control the cubes as well. So we have 3 cubes. It comes with 3 cubes, and you can't buy them on their own, I know, because Jordan put a 12-volt battery in it. It's 1.5 volt. Don't do that. Bzz, it's died. So Hellray, Amazon, they actually replaced the whole thing. In like 5 minutes, they had a new one shipped. So now we have 2 Cozmos. So that's, good service. If it looks at the cubes, right? So he's trying to find the cubes, and he'll set the lights on the cube. So we've defined what the cube ID the cubes are up here. A light cube ID comes from the Cozmo objects. So that's a built-in library that they have. And then he can light them up. So we'll see if we can get him to do that. Sometimes it's a little bit iffy because it depends on where he's placed. When you're programming him, he doesn't do all the automated stuff. But we'll try that. So, oops. Yep, he got them all in one go. Could you see they were lighting up? No, you couldn't see it. Hang on. This is all new because that light is kind of bright. Let's see if we can do it again. See if that works. Hey, kinda, you got the idea. You can see the reflection turn blue. But they go blue, red, and green. And you can control the colors as well. And cubes can have 2 colors. There's some games on them where you got to match the colors. So he'll have a cube and you have a cube. And then when they're the same color, you got to tap it first. So he taps it as well. And then when he loses, he throws them. And it's pretty good fun. So that's kind of all of the basic. Like you control pretty much everything, right? You control his face, his arms, where he goes, his voice, What it does with the cubes, you can get him to pick up the cubes and stack them. All of that is accessible through the API with very little effort. Now we'll get to an example a bit later that has a little bit more effort involved. All right, let's do some of the facial recognition, which again is a little bit more involved, but it's not difficult. So you want, in this case, his little backpack light's going to light up if he sees a face, if he detects a face, and it goes off when he doesn't see it. So that's what all that says here. Face.isVisible, again, built-in API. We set all the backpack lights, which means it becomes sort of a whitish color, or we turn them off, and then you can try again until he sees another face. And then you always have this Cozmo.run program, usually down here. So we'll try that one. No, I just took 2 pictures, I think. Oh well. Which one's that in? Okay. So now, just put them up here again. See the backpack light there? So now when I run this, you can see there comes a whole bunch of stuff over there. So now he's taking his fork down and he's just looking for someone. So if he says hello on his little screen there. Hello? Oh, hang on, did I run the wrong script? Yeah, sorry, I ran the wrong script. It was a face image, my bad. It's just to show you how you can actually control the LCD. I think I'm in the wrong folder. Give me a sec. I can't remember where these are. Yeah, I'm in the wrong folder. All right. Well, there you go. You control the LCD as well. Okay. There we go. Okay. So there is the screen of what he's seeing. That's the video camera. So you can see when, that should light up there. It's really difficult to see though, unfortunately. So when he sees me, you see I walk in front of there and lights up. As soon as I move away, it turns off. Right, so it's quite good face detection. It's actually a lot smoother than what you see. That's a little bit jerky on there compared to the screen here. The refresh rate must not be as good. But he'll just keep doing it, right? Hello. Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, there you go. So very easily, again, the code for that is just kind of like, is there a face? All of the hard work of detecting the face has been done for you.
So can he tell the difference between different faces?
He can, yep. Yeah, he'll tell the difference between different faces, or if it's a pet, because that's furry. You train him to do different faces, though, and you can associate name with it. So when he runs around and suddenly he sees, he goes, hello, Lars, or something like that. And then he'll recognize if you play a game with him. So if you keep playing games with him, then he'll continue to go to you more than others, because that's the kind of AI part of it. Okay, any questions on any of this? Because this is all the heavy coding, right? Okay. We can also get him to follow someone, right? So here is the bulk of it. If he finds a face, you turn it towards the face. So that's another API thing that you can get him to follow your face. So if you want to play a game where he's trying to find your face and you get away from him or something, you can write your own games, whatever you want. He follows you and turns as you move, which is kind of neat, really, because it's a bunch of things that's happening at the same time. He's continually tracking the face as well as tracking the direction that he's facing with the camera, so that he moves in the right. It's a little bit jerky. It'll probably improve, but we'll see. Hang on, I'll try that. So again, the camera comes up to show us. So then when he sees a face, it should. Come on, Cozmo. No? There you go. Okay. And then as I move around, he'll actually turn, right? And he'll turn the other way as well. And then obviously, eventually he'll just lose me. Go, hey, where'd you go? So that's a way of controlling the facial recognition, as well as using that data to do other things, like a compound thing almost. Then, of course, we can get him to play with the cubes. Did I kill that? No, I didn't. And we can get him to create a wall. And this is sort of the world is the table in this case. It's kind of like, where am I in the world? And you can create these fixed objects, and then this is where the mathematics come in. Right? You tell them the structure that you want to build based on pixel sizes and angles and relativity to the robots and all that. And then he goes to, and he actually builds the thing. So, yeah, okay. Can you go over here? Thanks. Okay. This one, though, is a little bit tricky. It doesn't always... why did I not quit that? Come on. Sometimes Control Z and Z does not work. I just will not do it. Come on. Here's what I'm doing. Yeah. That's... Yeah, I could. That's usually the only action. Sometimes it just takes 5 seconds before it actually quits, but yeah. I have like spares of command prompts for today. I built, I got JB Hi-Fi. Yeah. So, okay. Go there. Hey? No, this is all just hard-coded brute force. Where are we going here? There we go. So in here, we can want to create a wall. Okay, we'll see if he'll play ball today. All right, while he does that, any question on any of this Python code? Like, does anyone here code in Python, like, almost for a living or kinda? Okay, he didn't like that one. So, am I correct in assuming this is really approachable? Because I'm not a Python programmer, but I find it really basic. Like, just in terms of, even copy pasting these bits, I could probably do something pretty amazing with it. Oh, he decided to not do it. Fixed object created successfully. Really? Yeah, we can argue that one. So, I don't know how much of this you want to see before we get to the really cool bit. But I'll just go through this because it's. Tell me if it's boring, right? Tell me if I need to move on, whatever. I'm good. I can handle it. But if you want to play with the cubes, here we go. Look around is a pretty good one because it gives you an idea of where everything is, and he actually can observe where the cubes are. And then here, based on how many cubes you get, if you get 0, then he gets this animating trigger. So he just has his fail. He just kicks the shits, right? He just really gets annoyed. If he finds 1, then he's going to do the roll block. So he picks it up and goes. Whee! And if he finds more of them, then he's going to stack them, right? So again, this is a compound kind of example of, okay, well, we could probably use that in a game that's based on, what's in his view, that sort of thing. This one intrigued me because I didn't think he'd actually go to the charger. Tim and I had this conversation the other day, but I found the script that said drive to charger. So it looks like he can actually see the charger, which I didn't know. Robot that will a charger, he knows where the charger is. So that's, again, object recognition of what the charger is, right? Which is handy. The problem is, though, that he has to back up onto it. So he has to go to it and see it, and then turn around, and then back up onto it to charge, which is kind of tricky. But again, we had this conversation like, surely that's a solvable problem. It doesn't sound terribly hard, but it's more difficult than just driving up on it. Okay. I want to get to these things over here, which are much more interesting. Okay, so, anyone here uses Twitter? It's like 4 people. Really? I'm sure that's all of you. Or almost all of you. But he has interwebs connections so that you can do stuff online with him as well, right? And you can then use that data or that, whatever comes back to create all of these emotions and these actions and these behaviors that he has. So in this case, we are going to use Twitter. This is again one of Anki's examples, but I think it's really quite cool. It's not super complicated. If you go down to the bottom, is actually where it starts. Oh, come on. This is the biggest one. So here we have a run function, and this connects to Twitter. You just create an app on Twitter, if you've ever done that, so that your thing that has the right keys can do stuff with your Twitter account. So I have created a little account for Cozmo, and then he can react to tweets. So that's a function that's created above. And in this case, because this one's just called tweet at Cozmo, we can make him do stuff, right? So if you run this before, I don't want to go through all the code because that's it's a little bit boring. Let's see if we can get him to, whoops. Oops. I had it, there we go. And we want to do tweet at Cozmo, right? So if we do that, it's going to start up, it's going to connect to Twitter, the app on Twitter, conference Wi-Fi, and it's just going to sit there and wait. So now if I go over to the Twitters, which is here, and I say something like the handle, and obviously you can do this now too, because you're going to see what the handle is, right? NDC Cozmo, and you say, oh, I can't remember, is it drive, I think? And then it's the number of seconds, right? So let's say 2. I think that's what it is. I'm going to tweet at Cozmo. There you go. He's already, oh, you bugger. He drove for 2 seconds. Let's just do that again. Okay. Oh, someone's doing it. There we go. You're going to make him fall off the table, aren't you? Now, obviously, I have Cozmo over here as well. And we can see what people are tweeting him. Oh, thanks, Chris. And you can also make him turn, and we could create our own keywords, obviously, whatever it might be. But anyone can now, when that script is running, you can do, and that could also work for your build or whatever. You can integrate him with whatever you want, right? It just has a standard HTTP connection to some endpoint, and in this case, it's Twitter's API, and you can tweet at him. I can't remember what they all. I think the reply on this, because I got this one wrong. You can say head, lift, photo, say, or turn. So you also get him to talk. You can say, and then a text. That is correct. Thank you. There we go. So, see? So that's all you have to do, right? It's kind of fun. And it gives you this extra layer. Like now we have access to the interwebs, which means that we can kind of do anything, really, because we're nerds, right? We can do stuff. And that just elevates the powerful API-ness of this thing. Shut up. So now, obviously, I can just kill that script, right? There we go. So the other one that is integrated with Twitter as well is, oh no, that wasn't, that was the one we just did. See if I remember it. Last one here, where you read your tweet, right? So you can tweet at him and he'll read out whatever is in his stream, so everything. So if you make him follow 200 people, he's just gonna not shut up. He's just gonna go nuts. But you could do that, based on handle or based on keyword as well, or whatever you want to do. But in this case, it's the same thing. It's a much smaller script. Connect to Twitter, same thing we did before. And when he gets a tweet, now he's a little bit clever on here. So it does say colon every tweet that appears in the stream, but it'll remove an RT prefix because that's just stupid. I don't know who does that. And add retweeted and stuff like that. So you can do that again, and we could make him flash the lights or say turn on a cube, and he'd turn on the cube. Whatever is in the API is now accessible via Twitter, right? Good idea? I don't know, but hey, it's cool. So if we run that. Cozmo reads tweets. Now, whatever you tweet at him now with the NDC_Cozmo handle, he will say. That's just keyboard mashing. What the hell? Thanks, Ryan. Ryan, out. No, so you get the idea, right? And I don't know. The thing is, he also reads out the handle. Like, he literally reads everything. So it just becomes illegible. You can't figure out what the hell he's saying. But yeah, that's not annoying at all. Shut up. There we go. All right. I'm sorry to ruin your fun. But you get the idea? Yes?
What's the connectivity like? So does he have Wi-Fi in him, or does he Bluetooth the phone and uses the phone as Wi-Fi?
So that's a good question. How does the connectivity, like what's the pipeline, right? What's the stack is what you're asking. This thing is connected, that I'm not turned on again. It's an Android phone. I'm not used to this new technology. This thing is connected to the computer with a cable, and the computer's got Wi-Fi connection. Right. So this is connected via Wi-Fi to him, and then he uses via the cable the Wi-Fi connection on the computer. So that's kind of the way that it works.
So you can't load something onto him and have it running self-contained?
No, he has no memory. No, it has to all happen through the app. But then again, Android device is what, $40 now? So, it's not a big deal. Yes?
And the communication with the blocks, is it just...
Oh, same question. Communication with the blocks, I think it's Wi-Fi as well. I'm not sure. It might be Bluetooth. Do you know, Tim?
It's just a radio proprietary.
Oh, is it? Okay, proprietary. There you go. I actually didn't know. So it's some sort of proprietary. And that kind of makes sense because you don't really want interference with those things. I don't know if you can recognize more blocks. I don't think, because they all have different symbols on them. I don't know if you've seen that. They all look different. So I would imagine that they each have a different proprietary signal for him to find them. But he has to look at them in order to see where they are, and then they light up. So it's not just a matter of him sending out waves necessarily. We can do that as well as we did when we lit them up. Okay, so back to my amazing slides. Because, where did I go? There it is. Come on. There we go. Cool. Because you might want to get started with this. And I had a question right at the start that said, how much is he? I went, hey, wait. I paid $180 US plus whatever the postage was. But then because it malfunctioned, I got another one just sent under warranty. So it's kind of good that way if you deal with Amazon. And I guess that's part of their service. And that's it. You just get the box. The app is free. If you've got any kind of Android device, it's like version 4.4 and above, which is, I think, every single Android device out there almost. There's probably not much running lower than that. You do need an iOS on Android device, as I said before. And then here's the really cool bit, because it's a US market-only device, right? So the warranty is through the US. Luckily, Amazon's pretty good about that. Anki's support is only like kind of, oh, are you not in the US? Oh, we don't know what to do, possibly. But I've been allowed to say that they're going to announce the release date in Australia very soon. So we're going to get an Aussie version of Cozmo. I don't know when they're going to announce when it's going to be, but it's very soon, like probably the next few weeks. So you will be able to buy it here as well, under all the Australian warranty rules and all that stuff, which is kind of cool. Like, they're expanding, so it must be working for it. And I mean, he's hard not to love, right? Like, he's so annoying sometimes. Like, he literally will run after you and bump into you if you don't want to play with him. Like, he just gets angry or throws a block at you or something. It's pretty good fun. If you want to know more about all this, please take a picture or something of this, or I'll have to send it to you, or whatever it might be, because these are the official references or links from Anki. This is where they would like you to go, especially the forum. These forums are really good. There's a lot of activity on there, and people post their own scripts that you can then take and copy and use bits from, and put your own together and all that sort of stuff. It really is a good resource. And then the API documentation is pretty good as well. It's pretty useful. If you do use, I use Visual Studio Code on this, and if you install the Python plugin, you do get IntelliSense and code completion and all that stuff anyway. So that makes it easier. Now, at the end here, I've got this little kind of fun thing that Anki has done because they realized, so I spoke to them about my talk today, and I wrote some articles that was about Cozmo, and they said, hey, we see that you're doing AR, VR stuff, because I like HoloLens, right? And I said, hey, do you know, we've actually done something with Cozmo. I thought, really? Yeah. And they sent me this. Woo! Feels a bit wrong. So does anyone recognize what it said at the start? It's AR Kit. So that's the new Apple iOS AR initiative called AR Kit, which has, from the videos, I haven't played with it yet, has amazing tracking. And they're using that with the Cozmo API. So that when he presses the block, which you can capture, obviously, it then triggers that animation through AR Kit. Now, they haven't shared the code with me, so I'm not exactly sure how they've done it. But that certainly opens up a whole other range of possibilities. It's pretty impressive. And I'm not sure where it's going to go from here. To be honest, I kind of have an idea that something big is going to happen, maybe. Who knows? It could go horribly wrong. Cozmo's pretty independent. That's me. I'm Lars. I get some stickers from Microsoft that says MVP on them because I'm loud. I do write about this stuff as well on my blog if you want to go check that out. And I also write some stuff for Pluralsight. If you want to listen more to my voice, I have a podcast which is called The Day and the Pain. It's with a guy I've never met who lives in Alaska, which is kind of interesting. But we connected on Twitter, and we thought it was a great idea to talk rubbish for an hour every week. So that's kind of what we do. We do find some really cool stuff sometimes, like this global speed test index. Guess what the 5th fastest internet in the world is? Which country is that? North Australia. What?
No, not Australia.
Not Australia. Australia's not too bad. Romania. North Korea. I also do some Pluralsight courses, which is, I'm a freelancer, so that's part of what I do for a living. If you don't know about PubConf, it's on tonight. I think there's still tickets left. I hope so. This is the after party for NDC, and it's 10 Ignite talks, so 5-minute talks with slides that change every 15 seconds, whether you like it or not. And as a speaker, you just got to keep up. And it's hilarious. Not recorded, highly inappropriate, lots of swearing, all that sort of stuff. Go to pubconf.io if you want to come along. That's it. That's all I have. Thanks, guys.